This is 0.3.
Okay.
Okay. No, sorry, 0.2.
Yeah,
because Tom was 0.0. Sam McNally 0.1, and now we have a new guest 0.2. Or is this live? No.
I'm recording.
Okay. Oh, it's recording. Are all of them on? Okay, well then we've started already. So in theme with everything. Jack. Hello. Okay.
Hello, how are you?
We've solved that issue from last week, the handshake issue. But we will keep the mystery up. So Jack, you are 18 or 19?
I'm 19.
19. Congratulations.
Just
turned the big 9. That means you were born in the year 2000.
I was.
So you were the butt of the busted joke. Oh no, well 3000.
Actually, I just got sent a meme there earlier by one of my teammates. For like, kids born in 2001 or 8 years old now. So funny that you bring it up.
I don't. My sister will be 19 this year, so she was born in 2000 as well. So fair play to you on that. You are a blue belt from Tullamore.
That is correct.
A blue belt under Kieran Davern. One of I seen something the other day. He's announced for Polaris, isn't he? He's on Polaris card.
I think his name, the guy he's fighting, is Freddie Greenhall. Yeah, from Scramble Academy, I think. Yeah.
Unreal. Well, Kieran is, for those who don't know Kieran, and hopefully someone we talk to one day on this as well, Kieran was one of the original professional MMA fighters in Ireland. Really, really, really high level guy. Over the last couple of years after he retired, he kind of focused entirely on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, since about 2015, 2016.
He was just all on his jiu-jitsu. And I think that anyone who's been around or seen him compete would know that he's made massive improvements in terms of competitive jiu-jitsu. But I think that the cooler thing is that what he's done is he's also opened up a really, really impressive facility in the Midlands.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the Atos of Offaly.
Of the area. Yeah. Well, that's just because of the mats. But the reason why I think that it's as important as it is because when he was coming up and all of these people were coming up, they were driving 2.5 hours to Dublin to be able to train X amount of times a week. Now they're at the stage where they can give it back to their own local community. Do you notice that within the gym, from the get-go, that it's all based around the area as opposed to...
Oh, definitely, yeah. People are coming in from... as far as Mullingar, as far as Portarlington, if they're traveling at least half an hour to an hour to come here. There's some lads from Roscrea, it takes them over an hour to get to training. So pretty much everyone who takes jiu-jitsu seriously in the Midlands, I think at the moment, wants to come to Tullamore to train with us. It just shows you the level that we've grown so much. It's come away from the area of Dublin, where everyone just wants to train in the big gyms. So yeah, I think we're after open up loads of doors for people who want to progress a little bit more than just for the sake of exercising or just going out for a roll. People actually have a chance to do well in competition in the Midlands now.
Yeah, and continue on to do well. But why I think that's important even in this situation to you, because we will get to it when I introduce you properly, but you are a blue belt under Kieran and possibly one of his most attentive students, one of his most committed students in terms of your work the last couple of years to jiu-jitsu.
Probably, yeah.
Not to shit on the other teammates of yours, but I can do it, you can't. You are the leading one, at least from SVG Tullamore, as far as the general eye can see.
I'd be most into competition, and pushing forward with that, yeah.
What was it about competition for you that you appreciated?
I think I'm a very competitive person naturally. I've always wanted to, with my brothers, I've always wanted to one-up them. If we're ever bickering or whatever, I just naturally want to do well and do better than someone else and try, even for myself, self-progression. I'm very obsessed, and that would probably be one of my main traits, especially with what we're going to be talking about today. With the fact that I've been diagnosed with autism or Asperger's, it's pretty much one of the same. Now, the Asperger's has been branched in with autism, I think since 2013, just for a support network for funding and that for other people with Asperger's, so they can have more support. But one of the main traits of Asperger's is people are very focused on the one thing, and they can have tunnel vision with that. So I think competition is probably one of the traits that I have that I have tunnel vision with, obviously, yeah. So I don't see any other alternative but to compete, and I'm just pretty
Doing
much
okay
driving.
so
Yeah,
far.
yeah.
That I'm glad you said that, because I'd started my couple of minute timer late, so I think we're at 5 minutes around now. This is Jack Dolan. He is a blue belt from Tullamore in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and as he had just said, had been, as I don't want to say recently been, but you are diagnosed as having Asperger's and autism.
I've been diagnosed since I was 10 years old. Yeah,
10 years old,
which is still actually considered late enough. People are diagnosed around the age of 4 or 5 for these developmental issues and that. So
can you remember anything about that day?
My parents actually didn't tell me until a few months after. I remember being brought up by my parents to be tested, but they didn't tell me it was for testing for autism or Asperger's. They told me it was like a form of an IQ test, which is fair enough to them, because I didn't know anything myself about autism, and they didn't know really too much about it themselves either. So I think it was fair enough that they withheld information. Looking back now, I wouldn't blame them. But they sat me down and they just went through with me. Jack, you're testing, you have autism. And so I didn't really know how to react at the time, but they had a few books and I had read, like they gave me like 3 or 4 books and I'd read them. Well, the way I was back then, I read them within a couple of days.
Within a day.
Yeah,
I didn't want to make that joke,
yeah.
but thank you very much.
So I just scanned through them and it was just before I went into 5th class. So they were getting me ready for school, and they had sorted out a resource teacher for me to go in, I think for I forget how many hours a week, but I would be taken out of class from the rest of my students, and I'd be put in with a resource teacher where they'd help me develop with maybe social skills, and further emphasize on some of my own interests. Like I was very interested in maths, I still am, and science. So I would have had more time allocated to doing the things I like rather than doing Irish, for example, or geography. But then as time went on, I sort of felt a little bit ostracized by the rest of my classmates, because they're asking me the whole time, Jack, why are you going out to do these classes? Like, is this not for people in the unit? And I didn't really know how to communicate with that to them. So
especially at a young age.
Yeah. So I sort of kept it hidden. I just told them, oh, I'm just doing some math stuff, just because I don't know. I just gave some half-hearted excuse.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit difficult. I found it funny, actually. I think they overestimated the amount of, well, not the amount of autism, but the level of my ability and like whether I was high functioning or not. So they spent a little bit more time regarding social, developing social skills. I remember like there was a computer program where there were, I had to match up faces with certain emotions. I was just thinking, what am I doing here? So I was starting to get upset towards the end of that year, and then I was asking my parents, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. I'm feeling very different. I don't like feeling like this. So in 6th class, they altered it slightly. So they took some of the bright kids from my class, and we started doing some like 2nd year, 3rd year maths like problems and that. So
in 6th class you were doing 2nd or 3rd year, and
like it's general algebra stuff that like we could progress through to. So that helped me feel a little bit more included, but still I felt like I couldn't really communicate across to people why I was in there. I think it was more so to do with pity rather than anything else. Then like I've had like,
can I ask you just one, what was it like, or how did it feel in 3rd or 4th class? Because to go from, and I know that this is a really strange thing to be asking, how did you feel as a child, but I understand what you're saying about maybe feeling different and having to go and do those things in 5th class. But what was the school's alternative, or what was the norm before you had been diagnosed? Because as you say, high functioning, that is exactly, am I correct in saying you are high functioning.
You could say that, yeah.
So it's not as if that, I'm just looking at it now, not to be bad on the support that you receive, but it seems like telling a child that there's something different about them and the solution is to take them away from all of the other children and keep them by themselves.
I think with the options that my parents had and that my school had at the time, I can't really blame them, as I said already, because they didn't really know any different. I didn't know any different. So I don't know, I have mixed opinions on it, but I always knew from a child I was very different. I'd had issues with eye contact, still have a little bit at the moment. I'd obviously be very unsociable or show unsociable behaviors, be fairly monotone, still have a little bit of, sorry to the listeners if you nodding off to sleep with me talking, but yeah, and I'd just be fairly awkward. I wouldn't really.
I'm awkward as fuck. I can't look people in the eye. Don't worry, it's okay.
I've always been very. I like my own company, and I'd very rarely try and go out of my way to go into certain groups. I remember when I think it was junior infants or senior infants, I think I spent the whole year at break time just walking around the just outside during break time, and I wouldn't play with anyone, or not that like people were excluding me, but I don't think I was trying to include myself, and I wasn't really helping myself in that situation. And like as I got through to my like later years, my early teens, I started to have like a slight crisis within myself. Like, why don't I want to be part of the group? And I was hating myself for not wanting to do that. So I think in the last few years, especially with jiu-jitsu, the fact that I'm part of a community that has the shared interest, where I've never really had a shared interest with many of my peers before, I've just come on so much. A lot of people are surprised somewhat when I tell them that I've been diagnosed with autism or Asperger's. So yeah.
I don't want to say that I certainly was, but I think why I would relate to a lot of the things that you're talking about, at least from a younger perspective. I'm very much okay with my own company, despite being aware of the fact that your own company is a bad thing. You know, we will not to go on about one thing in particular, but I know that from talking to fighters over the years, there was a real sense of isolation from a lot of them, or loneliness, genuine loneliness, because at the end of the day, Eduardo Teta put up a post yesterday about no matter what, believing in yourself, because other people will act like they support you, but they don't, and behind their back they're saying he should get a job. Fuck, he needs a routine. He can't be doing that shit every day. He's not going to make money off it. You have to ignore those people, and unfortunately, in ignoring those people and doing that thing, it can become an isolatory and lonely thing, because you're just asking yourself constantly, like, am I good enough to be able to do this? Am I good enough to keep doing this? And I think that from the stuff that you've said, like, I think that so many people are, I'm trying to be quite careful on what I say here, because although we are speaking as friends, this is going to a wider audience. And the last thing that I would want to do is for people listening to this who are getting help from what you're saying to think that I'm belittling those type of people, or to be taking the piss out of those type of people. And that's not the case at all. But what I'm trying to say is that your mindset is actually perfect for jiu-jitsu. Do you know, as someone who didn't want to be doing other things when you were younger, can you explain about how that this is the perfect vehicle maybe for your condition, to help your condition best?
So I've tried to get myself involved in loads of different sports during my early years. I've been involved in hockey, tennis, soccer, Gaelic. I think I dabble in a bit of rugby and some running as well. But I just never really found a community that could help me as a person, and I just never really liked the psyche. And I think people got very cliquey as well within their certain groups, within their interests, and I tend to isolate myself, as I said already, as a result of that. So when I went into jiu-jitsu as just before I turned 15, I was nervous standing beside the mat, just wondering, is this going to be another thing that I'm not going to feel a part of? But as soon I realized that these people all have the same interests. They're all looking to improve each other. Everyone has a shared goal. So that's sort of when I knew. Just a few, yeah.
Shared goal, but the fact that the sport is individualistic in
I think
itself is what helps the most.
That's why it's so special. Like you wouldn't get it with the likes of tennis. Like everyone's looking for themselves, and you're only playing with, like if you're playing tennis, you're only playing with one person. If you're, let's say you're running and it's on your own. I know there's like you can run with groups, but no one's really thinking of it as like self improvement. You're just going out for a run. Yeah. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, or some runners might disagree with me on that, but I think jiu-jitsu is very special where you're constantly looking to improve yourself, and it just has the perfect mix of everything. Like you're getting your exercise, you're getting you're socializing. Yeah, so I think it's the perfect vehicle.
I ask more from the perspective of when you speak about tunnel vision.
Okay.
Because I understand as well about being fixated. And today, we talked about it, today is a special day, the 24th of July. It is my Mean Girls October 3rd. That's my pop culture reference of the day. On this day 9 years ago, I did my first jiu-jitsu class. I was 17 years old. One of my friends who did it with me is still training, but he's a fully qualified lawyer now. So while I spent the time doing nothing training, he was getting a very, very good education. Now, he is a blue belt, but slightly slower. And yeah, good man, Connor. And when it comes to that night, then I covered my first ever MMA event, and we were talking about people earlier on who were at that event and people who are still involved in the sport. And I just think that for me, it was like, I felt that way when I was younger as well, because I was shy at football. I liked playing football, but I scored the most own goals in history of my local club of Seatown, like 100%. Brian McGuinness was the manager there, who was over our groups for a long, long time, and I think he'd back me up on that. Like I fucking at least 6 or 7 own goals in my career, 1 regular goal, and that was about it. But I do think that if I had found jiu-jitsu when I was younger, I think it would have been perfect for me. And I do think that so many people are maybe put off by trying something like that due to the negative connotations that they think it involves, because it's MMA or because it's about MMA or because them boys are cage fighters or whatever. Like I still do think that there is a deep rooted feeling about that towards combat sports in Ireland, and I'd imagine it would be like that in the Midlands.
Definitely, yeah. Like I work in my dad's shop at the weekends, so like if some people would hear that I'm doing jiu-jitsu, the fighting, and they think, oh, are you doing that Conor McGregor stuff? And just obviously the whole thing develops into they start to throw up their fist or whatever and pretending, and it's just fairly, So sorry, what was your question? Sorry,
I can't even remember, to be honest. I think I was stalling, and I'm okay with that. But it was I know where I wanted to progress it onto, and it was more so your secondary level education, because I know that you were saying there that the primary school stuff was tough, but then I can't imagine anything worse about the whole being taken out of a class, but in a secondary school situation.
Secondary school was, I've just finished there, obviously finished my Leaving Cert. I think it was a good transitioning experience for me, going from, like, obviously the year before I had been diagnosed. I started learning myself how to socialize a little bit better, but then I felt I was trying to include myself in the wrong groups. Not that I was getting in trouble, but I felt like I was trying to push myself into maybe the more popular groups to try and force that socializing. And I had a little bit of an identity crisis as well, just trying to figure out who I was. And I think I found it in jiu-jitsu.
I think just like listening to that, that's what I was going to say, is that you have found your identity crisis, but I also don't think that there are many people your age or younger being able to be even aware to comprehend the situation of what an identity crisis is. To them, they're just, I don't want to disparage young people, but maybe their reaction then would just be to go get pissed. Or just like, okay, well, everyone goes out in the session, so I'm going to go out in the session as well. And I feel that maybe that isn't something that would have ever appealed to you. No.
Like, I think, I'm not even sure if it was on, but my grad, I think was on there a few days ago. I just didn't buy a ticket, didn't bother to check. I'm not really. I think I'm not friends with anyone from school on Facebook anymore or Instagram. I don't know what's going on. So I've always been away from the crowd in that sense as well. I've never really seen the need to drink, and I think it's a bit silly, really, just trying to.
Come on, give me that. Come on. Nah, I have a load of mates to drink. I just don't as well. Like, and it was just always something. Like I've told him, and I think that what I wanted to get out of these first couple of episodes is to maybe say the things that I've been thinking for years that are important to me, but it's not really important to say to a person in a one-on-one conversation. But when you can maybe try and get it to a wider audience to reassure someone of how they may currently be feeling, it's worth sharing that. I don't drink, and I have tasted alcohol. I have no interest in ever being drunk. I have no interest in being that way, and it's because of my uncle. My uncle never drank when I was younger. So when I looked at him as this like DJ and this radio presenter and producer and cool person, I was like, oh fuck, well, if he doesn't need to, then I don't need to. And that was basically it. And I can remember nothing more weird and uncomfortable for me as a teenager was when like gigs were on or teenage discos were on and I would never be going. Yeah. And it's like, oh, why aren't you going? It's like, why would you want to? That was my take on it.
I dabbled in a little bit like with tennage discos, and I found myself standing there looking at other people just
not talking to each other.
Yeah.
Or will you shift my friend? Like,
I didn't know how to like get myself involved in the situation. I found it very strange, and it just wasn't me. So I think that's the reason why I haven't applied for my CAO either. So I'm not going to college next year. Well, for the very least. But I think part of that is people feel peer pressured into going to college to have that college experience. I don't need that.
Black belt world champions don't need that.
So we go back to the self-awareness again. Like, I know that is not me. So trying to indulge myself in that sort of lifestyle is going to be a waste of time for myself.
Yeah.
I don't like to waste time in that regard. I just rather get stuck into it and just get going with jiu-jitsu straight away. So I've already started my 6:30 a.m. classes.
Yes, Tuesday. I haven't. Okay. I'm the target in Dundalk at the moment. They hate me for that. Not that it will start. Hopefully it will start.
You're going to be running them. Yeah.
The only problem is that Wednesday was the day that seemed to suit a load of people, but I'm up here on a Tuesday night till late.
Yeah.
So I was obviously keen to be training people, and that's something that like I also have to trust and listen to my coach as well, because I have coached before, I have taught before, I really enjoyed it. But I also do know that it does take a certain amount of attention away from competing. Now, 6:30 in the morning twice a week for you, that's sweet. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like you're having to take a class before or after or somewhere else at the same time of competition training or drilling or something, for example. But we'll skip back, but very quickly, how have you felt the 6:30 class is going for you, as a sense of you're aware that you're not doing the CAO and that this is the thing that will maybe sustain you for the next couple of years? How are you feeling about it initially?
As in
so far, how do you feel the classes are going so far?
I think they're going well. Like the same 6, 7, 8 people are coming every single morning. I think they're enjoying the classes. I have a slightly different approach to some teachers, just because coming from SPG, I try and apply a lot of the principles that the SPG coaches would have, such as like understanding concepts rather than going straight into techniques. So when I'm going around to people teaching the techniques or teaching the concepts, I make sure they absolutely know everything about that posture, about that pressure, before they can go into a guard pass, before they can go into a sweep, before they can go into submission. If I see people in the room aren't doing well with the posture first, I'll spend that a little bit more time. And maybe I call it possibility, and a lot of the SPG coaches too. I'll show them maybe one possibility, but I'll tell them to develop that in their own way, so they come up with their own possibilities. I just teach them the way that they could do it, and they can apply it themselves. So actually another thing is I get them to give each other feedback in between positional rounds, so they can actually look back on the situation, see, okay, is there a certain way I could have improved that posture there? Why did he hip bump me there? things like that. And I try and get them to think a little bit more deeper into the position. And yeah, so I think I'm different in that regard towards my teaching.
If we skip back, because I know like this is a good journey, a good journey thus far, but I suppose this is, I don't want to say it like this is where the difficult questions come, but this is where I would be conscious of what I ask you. Like, was it like emotionally, was it bad in secondary school? Because I know I appreciate your response now. I think that's a very mature and intelligent, and like, my God, like, you don't need to be connected to people on the internet to see what they're doing, to see how they're doing, what they're up to, whatever. That means absolutely nothing. I think more people taking that approach would lead to a lot more healthier minds in the country in this year alone. But like, people are bastards, you know, children especially. And you're talking about trying to attach to a slightly cooler group. I understand, which means that they would have looked at you as the weaker person within that group.
Definitely, yeah.
Which means you are the butt of the joke within the bigger group.
For the last couple of years, I remember, like, I make my own meal prep occasionally, but sometimes I get like meals from Clean Cut Meals. Shout out to them if you want to
throw you more.
Throw me a little DM. But yeah, so I go to the.
We're actually
canteen.
fans of the Happy Food Co here, Jack.
Okay.
All right. just want to say that.
Grand. So yeah, I just heat up my meals every time, or I did in the canteen, and everyone else would be downtown getting their own lunch. I just remember
curry.
curry or
roll.
just rolls. I could hear like little things in the background, and towards my later years I just didn't care anymore. Before that, I got very upset when people started to maybe exclude me or say things about me. I've broken down a few times. I had a very hard time in primary school with my emotions. I was very emotional, and I let it get to me. I remember one time when I was in school, I think it was first class or second class, and I don't know, I remember someone saying something to me, or like just something generally mean. I remember I dropped down to the floor and I started crying, and I wouldn't move, being the person I was, with autism, and I just wouldn't move, and I couldn't think of anything else, and they had to get my dad into school, so he had to collect me, and obviously I didn't really know what was going on. And
I would hate to think about I would hate to imagine how the next couple of weeks would have felt for you after that. Simply from
there's been rumors going on like, oh, Jack fell asleep down on the ground in school, and just people still like said that to me recently. Actually,
the problem there is not within the person; it is within the people who are receiving this information around you. It's in the school. It's the school's fault for not fucking holding what do you call those things? Because we used to have to do them every day. Assembly. Holding assembly and saying, right, you little shits, listen, this is what Asperger's is. This is what autism is. Nobody that has this chose to have it. They were born that way. You're all going to have fucking identity crises when you're older and think you're gay regardless. So we're just warning you now that there are things that happen in your body that you don't know about. Autism, Asperger's is one of them. Pick on this kid, you're getting battered. That's how I think that the new school system should work. And hopefully the Department of Education have already taken my words on board and are implementing this as we speak.
I think, like, even if I tell people about it, they have no idea. Like, they think, oh, I'm just flapping in the corner or something when I'm at home. When I tell them autism, well, a few years ago, anyways.
Flapping in the corner.
You know, way some people have those. It's called stimming, self-stimulation, where people might have a certain thing that keeps them calm. A lot of people like
mine
stimming
is Mongolian throat singing.
I think Go on. I used to hum a little bit when I was younger. I don't think I do anymore. But I have a cousin who has low function.
Gotcha.
He only turned 7 there recently. He doesn't have high functioning autism. He's very dependent on his mother, my aunt. He stims by chewing on a little plastic straw thingy that hangs down from a chain. and he also sings a good bit, like the same repetitive song over and over again. So sorry, what were you saying about?
I think I just wanted to make my screaming
okay.
joke, to be honest. I had forgot the previous thing that I brought you onto. We're actually really missing Alana today now. That's Alana. We'll see you soon. Secondary school is what we were talking about.
School.
And how that the school should have probably just educated your peers as opposed to have letting them not even bully or isolate you, because, as I say, people are terrible irrespective. What the nature seems to be in teenagers is that the weakest person gets singled out. The strongest people are the ones that are listened to. And from the line below that to the line at the bottom, every person's living in constant fear that they're going to fall or lower down the list.
Yeah, there's definitely a hierarchy there, yeah.
But what happens then is that those people become shitheads in themselves because they're just trying to trample over each other so that they don't become the person at the bottom. You'll find that the people in the middle are the ones who become more inherently nastier to the people at the bottom, because it's to show a gap between me and you.
Yeah, I could definitely see like different levels of people just trying to, I think, terms razzing each other, just trying to one up each other, and just stupid schoolboy insults. I was never really a part of that. I just tried to stay well clear of that, and I think I did do a little bit when I was younger, maybe just at the start of secondary school, when I was trying to figure out who I was. But I just see it as stupid, and I still know people to this day that are still trying to give each other those schoolboy insults, like from my year, and I just don't have any time for them.
It still happens at 26, don't worry. It doesn't matter if they're only out of school a month or two at 19, it still happens at 26 years old as well. I know the answer, and I don't want it to come out of your words to further put you as a target to the people who you've just left school with, but they will say, we went to school with you. And they will be apologetic in their thought process in a couple of years' time. I can guarantee you that much. As people evolve and get a little bit older and aware of situations, they will, and then in turn will see what you are achieving or doing or becoming. Like, you will get a lot of messages in the future from people who you went to school with. A lot of apologies.
Oh no, I know that, but like I actually only got the first bit of recognition that I got off my school for doing jiu-jitsu, and I've got medals at national championships 3 times. I've gone abroad to compete in the European championships. School didn't say a word. Then the very last week, I'd won the Nogi Irish Open, Irish Nationals as it's called. I think there's a lot of controversy over that as well.
A topic for a different day.
They found out about that, and I only got noticed then. Fair play to them. Well, not fair play, but like, I'm appreciative.
Yeah, because you weren't doing it for your school to brag about what you do. Like, there's some people that are starting to accept that I'm doing well and that they can't really make fun of me anymore. I was still getting made fun of for doing jiu-jitsu, and they call it, like, obviously hugging man.
Like the BJ instead of BJJ, and saying all that, like, until like 3 years in. I'm hearing less and less of that now.
Isn't it mad though how like we would have the comfort and knowledge and being like, if you actually said that in a room where there was padded walls and floors around us, I'd be much more comfortable than jumping on you and taking you to the ground. Like, just the Arthur fist meme, just shaking. Yeah. And I just think that's I see that sort of relationship with how people will dismiss jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and I think that although it's cliched that jiu-jitsu is for everyone, it's also true that jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, if that makes sense.
I understand,
like, in theory, everybody is capable of doing jiu-jitsu, but those that have connected with it, maybe that sounds too culty, that appreciate it on a different level than this is just a move or this is just an exercise. I think that has to be learnt, and I think it is certain traits in a person that will recept to those things better, as opposed to go in and everyone's leaving like this, drinking coconut water.
I don't actually, personally, I don't think it's for everyone. Just seeing people coming into the gym thinking that it's going to be one thing, and it's definitely not that thing. So like they have this idea that it's going to be like Conor McGregor MMA. Like all the stardom will come very quickly to them, and they're looking for fights 2 weeks in.
Put me in, coach.
Just
Karen, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Champ, let me go.
might be a little bit over eager. I've seen a lot with people posting into our group page, like posting in memes and stuff, like with only a few weeks experience, and then you wouldn't see them a couple of months afterwards. So I definitely don't think it's for everyone, but I think it can help everyone if they stick with it. Yeah.
That's the main thing. I think that there are helping benefits in it that will transcend. I think that generally the people who we're citing that wouldn't take to it are those people that have a certain level of ego and a certain level of maybe even opinion of themselves. So when they come into the situation where they're being beaten, maybe by the person that they made fun of, or by people like that, that doesn't sit well with a lot of people's conscious thought, like with their consciousness.
What do you think ego dissipates, though, as you go on with jiu-jitsu?
I'm not sure, because I think it gets stronger because you get better at it, and it makes you realize that you're getting better at it. I think having somebody around you that is constantly able to kick the fuck out of you at jiu-jitsu, you're going to have that with Kieran for a long time.
Oh, definitely.
I have that with my coach Sebastian for a long time. I think that, yes, having those but you'll never be allowed to get ahead of yourself. I think if you have a coach who's looking out for you, that's not going to happen. But I do also think that, as you start getting better, maybe people might start believing in themselves a wee bit more.
The curve goes up and down and up again.
But now we're also, and I know we've had this discussion, like people are in the era of where they're trying to make themselves attractive or marketable or sellable or whatever. And the thing that, like, if we're talking about it now, like, it's 9 years since I started everything. 2 years ago, I remember I had a match in Cage Legacy, because my Facebook memory showed me all of the stuff today, and I was just kind of like, wow, people are so fascinated on immediate success. And like you're talking about people coming in and looking to fight, it's a very cliched thing, and it's not something that I want to kind of like stress on, because like, fair enough, I've done it, but everyone's done it. Everyone who is anywhere in any position has had to work for a long time before they get to the part of time where people think that they're successful, or that they're good, or that it's whatever. Unfortunately, people might turn around and say, this guy has a bit of an ego in jiu-jitsu, but they didn't see him training 4 or 5 days a week for 7 years leading up to that.
They sort of deserve it in a sense, but
I think that someone deserves to feel proud of having the commitment of bringing themselves to a gym 5 or 6 times a week to do something that is physically very hard, that can be emotionally very hard, and to never know if you're actually going to ever make it somewhere. Do you know? So I think that if that person does make it, or starts making it there, they should absolutely be allowed to act in whatever way that they want.
You should definitely be grateful for what you've achieved in that space of time doing that amount, but still
when I
you
say
have to
any
rein
way
it in.
you want, I just would like to
Okay.
not that they should act any way they want.
Yeah.
I think that they should, as long as they are still the same good people to the people who were with them before they had anything, they can be perceived to anyone in the world in any way, shape or form, because having someone saying something about you, whether it's positive or negative, is better than having somebody not saying anything about you and being unknown entirely. Now, I would say that, yes, maybe a blue belt shouldn't be worrying about how good or bad they come across in any capacity, because for every good blue belt or respected blue belt from higher belts, and I know this for a fact that you would be one of the more respected people who compete at the moment, especially among higher belts in what you're doing. To every one of you, there are 4 of, I'm going to fuck everyone up at the Irish Open topless picture standing in a gym. And I think that unfortunately everyone just gets grouped in together in that. And the people who are doing the good thing on the quiet, on the sly, on the proper, they're not getting the same appreciation, because we just like bitching and complaining about the people who are acting like clowns instead.
Like, there's
so you're not getting the love.
7.5 billion people, and you think
you're different.
Yeah.
You think like, that you possess something that is different from any other person in this world. Like,
yeah.
No.
It's just ridiculous.
It doesn't happen. I fully believe, just to go full conspiracy theory on it, I'd appreciate your take on it.
Tower 7.
Well, don't get me started on Tower 7. Come on, I know all about it. I watched a video on Facebook the other day about conspiracies, and it was about 9/11. And the thing that made me think even more, right, this is definitely real. Facebook allowed this video to be uploaded. It was 19 minutes long. 4 of those minutes were mute, but a guy was talking in the middle of the video. What are they hiding? What was in those 4 minutes that they felt they had to cut the audio out of 4 minutes out of the middle of a video, but left the other 16? Look into it.
Okay.
Think about it. That's all I'm saying. Tower 7 was mentioned as well, but I just did find that quite weird. My biggest, we will talk about it then. I'm going to indulge the conspiracy side of me. Why did the British Broadcasting Company talk about a plane that had fallen, about a building that had fallen when it hadn't actually fallen at that stage?
Can you tell me?
I can't. I'm not part of the US government that covered up the biggest atrocity in history, Jack. We'll move on from the conspiracy theory. So
I don't really have much to say.
You come at the conspiracy of the king, you better be coming with theories. You know, I'm not here to play around. I'm not here to. If I'm gonna be made fun of for enjoying a good conspiracy theory, I want to go down in a ball of flames many episodes in the future. We're not gonna indulge Tower 7 on it. But now I do forget what we were talking about. I'm sorry. Immediately before that. You put me off a conspiracy theory.
I said Tower 7, then you went into...
Yeah, but I did need to talk about the Facebook the video anyway.
Oh yeah.
This is the part of the conversation, because it just knots between everything a little bit better, and I don't want to just pile a load of questions onto you here, but I suppose we can, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was I don't want to say what was the worst moment of it, but when did you start to appreciate that what you are diagnosed with is actually a gift if channeled correctly? And I know that may not.
I suppose.
Because I feel it is a gift, and I don't want to try and come across and condescend to that. But someone like yourself, or people who have high functioning autism or Asperger's, I consider them to be possibly the smartest people you could meet. I understand that there is degrees of it that can limit the person's ability to be functioning or to be, a productive member of society or anything like that. I think that they're just on a different level. I think people like you fascinate me, and I don't know why.
So to answer your question, when I first realized, I think, my parents always came across the angle of I was very good at maths. I think it's called the DATS. Going into secondary school, you do this test in 6th class, and I was in the 99th percentile in maths. So they always came across that angle. And fair enough, I did enjoy, I do enjoy maths, and I did, but I never felt fulfilled. So I think jiu-jitsu obviously comes into it again about when I was 15, 16. A year or two in, I started to think, okay, maybe this is my calling. This is what I can channel my level of intelligence in this sort of way, communicating and teaching, and even processing information, trying to incorporate my own techniques into competition and into rolling.
There also must be a certain element, I don't want to say of proudness for you, but you should be proud, in the sense that you're talking about maybe not being comfortable speaking or eye contact or social situations. Teach. Are the person that everybody looks at in that situation. So that's something you should be proud of. And sure, I hope it is something that you feel prideness in.
Yeah, I can definitely look back on that and say I've come such a long way. I'd never be able to talk to someone at all that I didn't know a few years back, before I was 10.
How were we able to talk then? When did we first talk? What was our first interaction? Can you remember? Is it an embarrassing one now or something?
I think it was late last year at the Northern Irish Open, the Nogi, and I said you were in the blue belt division, and you're
at the time.
No, you're misplaced in the blue belt division.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, and I just said, Andrew,
you're misplaced, and I was like, who are you, kid? Get me a coffee. Get out of here. No, not at all. The reason why I asked you that is because I can remember when you came up to train with us earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
And although he's standing over here as well, and we'll give him the shout out on the record here as well. See this guy here, Connor, right? You two are way more similar than you think. And that's because I will go out of my way to try and give an opportunity or time to somebody who puts themselves in a difficult situation to begin with. You, at a young age, were willing to, on your midterm, get multiple trains just to come up to Newry, just to be able to train with us, potentially because of what we were either perceived to be doing in our training or how we were doing in results, or maybe because we're all just sound. It could be any one of those things, and I'm happy if it is any of those things. And to meet someone your age who is capable of doing that, despite me being able to know that there is something unique about this guy, but not something wrong with this guy, because if there was something wrong with this guy, he wouldn't have been able to get several trains from Tullamore to Newry.
Not that bad.
Yeah, exactly, in one day to come up and train with us. So that was the thing that I took from you.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when I met Connor on the bus in 2017, he was 17. I know it was 2017. Don't be correcting me on my... For what?
November.
Oh, November. Sorry, he wants date specific. Okay. Well, I don't know your mate's name, but I'm going to call him a clown here anyway. He was sitting next to one of his mates, a clown at the time, who was saying Connor had copped who I was, and we were sitting right next to each other on the bus. He was trying to say to his mate, I think this chap is your man who interviewed McGregor. Maybe I should say something to him. Yes is the obvious fucking answer to that question, but when you're with a friend who is not of the same creative mind, they're not going to feel the same way about that opportunity. So I know he was giving you shit for it and giving you a hard time for it, and I think that I did call him out for it on the bus, and if I didn't, I meant it, which was that if you are friends with a creative person or someone who's doing something differently, you don't disparage them for doing something that may seem uncomfortable, i.e. introducing themselves to someone, going up to someone saying, hello, this is who I am, this is what I do. I made a promise to myself to spite your mate, so thank him for that, that one day I would be able to offer him some form of experience, some form of work, or a project that would go on to something else. And I consider you in the same field because of the braveness, I suppose, of such a young person being so confident in what you're doing, facing all of these ridiculous stigmatizable challenges from the world where you could easily fall to shit under the pressure of what people would say to you.
I think understanding...
Fair play, boys. Shane's here as well. Shane's all right.
I think understanding... Well, not understanding. There's a good analogy of like a fly in a restaurant, and it might be buzzing around, but if you choose not to notice it and you continue eating your dinner or your plate, like you'll be doing okay, and like the fly, it'll be like the fly wasn't even there. I think it's similar to a lot of people's circumstances. Like I'm in Tullamore. A lot of people are small town mindset, have a lot of small town mindsets, don't really venture out too far. They just go to the pub at the weekend, drink with their friends.
That's okay as well.
Yeah,
though.
but like,
I would have been similar like that. I know you're not being disparaging in how you're saying that, but
I just like that. That's the way some people are. But I'm surrounded by that in my town. Like I live in, I live in
the sticks.
Sorry, the sticks. So I just choose not to look at that. I try and narrow my social media down to just jiu-jitsu people. I just make my way to training every day. Don't take any heat to anything else. I think I'm okay in that sense.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's how are your parents dealing with you wanting to pursue jiu-jitsu entirely?
To be careful how
you phrase this one. They'll get there. Don't worry. Okay. Mommy and Daddy Dolan, trust us here. You don't know me. Trust us on this one.
They are very supportive. Like my mom and dad drive me to training pretty much nearly every day unless I can walk or cycle. But luckily enough, I bought my first car there recently. So
there you go.
Just have to get the lessons and the tests out of the way.
And the crippling insurance prices.
Yeah, so they are very supportive in that sense. And I actually showed my mom the podcast with Tom. And I think it was a couple of days ago. And she's starting to realize more the opportunities available to me. If I was to go abroad, train in America, if I had to train just wherever, that there is opportunity for me. And she's starting to realize now that this is what makes me happy, and she's happy to see me happy.
Yeah, which is
she's afraid that if I don't make it all the way and just say I get injured, because I've had 2 knee surgeries before I turned 18, that she's afraid that if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, she's afraid to see me unhappy with myself not being able to pursue this. Cause
to do it,
she thinks that I don't really have another outlet. We have obviously come head to head with the idea of college, and it's been a little bit frustrating for her, the fact that I don't want to pursue it, despite the fact that I do have a good interest in maths
and level of
and,
intelligence. Like,
well, like I don't want to come across too much of a.
you should. You're a genius.
Well, like I'm not. Well,
What'd you
not
get?
really.
Oh well, you don't
Well,
know your
I
leaving
don't
cert
know.
points at the moment.
No.
What'd you get in your marks?
I got
With very
didn't-
little study.
about 450, I think it was, but I think I might get around 520. So it's reasonable enough considering
Reasonable enough, yeah.
since I
It's only reasonable enough. There.
did training 6 times a week.
Exactly. Like you are committed entirely to jiu-jitsu irrespective of anything in your
Yeah.
final year. I would, if I could offer a counter argument to that, I would say don't close the door fully on third level education. And it doesn't have to be in the capacity of the picture of what you may have as what third level education is. I went to a very good secondary school in Dundalk. It was a fee-paying school, which is something that has fucking haunted me and followed me for the rest of my life, because you think people are talking about schools. I fully believe, like, in terms of like being a more balanced person, I think publicly educated people are better. And that's just me. Like, I'm not saying specific against my school or other schools. I just think that, my God, there is a level of arrogance that comes out of a school where you have to have the privilege of paying money to be there to begin with. Everyone already thinks subconsciously that they are in a better footing or in a better position because they have been paid to get there. I know people who grew up with the mindset of, if anything ever happens, your dad will sort it because he's a solicitor. And I'm like, that's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. And not to be bad about it, but I do feel that I wasn't told anything. Like, my guidance school, the guidance counsellor in school was very, very good. He was brilliant. But the school had a really proud link of X amount of students go on to higher third level education. So when it comes to your career guidance meetings, all you get told about is third level options.
Yeah.
And your CAO and this and that. There was a place called O'Fee in Dundalk, O'Fee College of Further Education. And it was looked down as the place that's where the scumbags go. That's where the no-hopers go. That you're not going there.
Yeah.
And that was a mentality that was circulated around my peer group. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what they're going off to study, what they're going off to do. I missed all of my options on the CAO. I got offered my 5th choice, which was English and Drama in UCD. And if I had been offered accommodation, I would have taken it, because I didn't want to come across as someone stigma at the time of not going off to third level education. I had no intention of trying to repeat the Leaving Cert. I got 390 points. I didn't get journalism. I didn't get communications. I didn't get multimedia. And I didn't get journalism in another college. And then I was going off to potentially be doing something like that. And it was a moment like that, whether it's a breakdown, whether it's a moment by yourself where everything is just too bad. There's like, I seen that Ballyfermot College had a place on a 1-year media degree, and that it was last minute. They still had places. It was a low level course. Imagine O'Fee College of Further Education, but in Ballyfermot College of Further Education. In one of the rougher areas of Dublin, where the last place you should ever go is that place. After 2 weeks, I realised every single thing that I had previously thought was wrong, that I had a very arrogant mindset towards the people that I was around, and even thinking that, like, oh, well, I'm only here to get out of it so I can get into DCU next year. Yeah. And it was within 2 or 3 weeks that I realised it's here that I have to stay. It's to do this course that I have to do, because it doesn't matter where you get your knowledge from as long as it's the correct knowledge. So don't rule out something like an evening course
definitely.
A part-time, whether it's in programming or physics, or like, that's me just broadly saying, I don't know, but there will be something that will attract your interest. You'll go up levels in terms of communicating with people, socially with people, having to deal and work with people that you maybe don't want to even have to. Within jiu-jitsu, you're in a perfect bubble of only being able to deal with those people. Yeah. And just for me, it definitely helped over a couple of year period of growing up, of character defining in terms of having to do things that maybe made you feel a little bit uncomfortable at the time. That was a bit of a rant, and I've just wanted to be able to shout out properly Ballyfermot College and the people that were involved in it and my courses and years, because that's basically it turned my whole life around in terms of how I should look at the world and how the world should be looked at correctly. So I'd always appreciate that. So I would say don't deny yourself of being able to meet fantastic mentors or potential people who can guide you over your next couple of years.
No, like I've definitely been, like, as I've done jiu-jitsu, more interested in my nutrition, just overall health. So I would be interested in maybe doing in the future like a health course or nutrition course.
Or to understand how the body works a wee bit better. Like, because if we reassure your mommy in any way, yes, the competitor thing may or may not work out, but there is lifetime of opportunities making money through working in jiu-jitsu or being involved in the sport.
Like I always say, I'm only 19. Might have another 80, 90 years left in my life. I can like completely reinvent myself in a couple of years' time.
If you wanted
still,
to.
And I don't see the rush.
Now,
so I just
explain to me. I'm going to ask you a question, which is the whole thing I've been doing, I suppose, for the last hour. If the technology in the future becomes available to say to you, we now know what autism is exactly, we now know what Asperger's is exactly, and if you drink this sponsored can of Coca-Cola, it has the serum in it that will make you
X-Men stuff here.
Normal. Whatever normal fucking means. Do you drink it?
No.
Good. That's the answer I was hoping for. And I think that if the rest of the world come up to speed with that level of thinking, that you are who you are no matter what, and just get on with it. You don't hate on somebody else for what they can or cannot do. Have a conversation with them and interact with them on a personal level and see what your thought of them is afterwards. Am I correct with that?
You'd be correct, yeah.
Excellent. When it comes to future then, because I heard about this on Joe Rogan's podcast where in theory they will be able to identify potential genes and abnormalities in babies, that sex won't create babies in however many years. It'll be lab and test tubing and stuff like that. Having gone through that as a kid, would you be in favor of something like that for your child in the future?
I think if the person isn't already a person, I don't really see much.
There's no
wrong. Well,
problem.
Like, I don't know. It's sort of...
That's a heavy question there. I'm just curious, if you knew you were about to be expecting a child and that there was a potential of a gene carrying over, but we're in the future where you're able to delete that gene.
Well, like I think already that they, for things like Down syndrome, parents can identify if there's a gene in the system and they can like choose not to have children or terminate the pregnancy early.
Well, forget about. I think I wouldn't be advocating that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm
but
just,
they say that the future of health of medicine will be that parents will be able to selectively put certain gene. Like if you find out that biologically you have a dormant gene that would mean your child could be 50% more likely to Alzheimer's in his 50s, you could take that away and you could just replace. My problem is when you're going to have people trying to build superhuman children to become athletes and just be like, I don't care if you wanted to be a doctor, you're going to the NFL. You know, like we need the money. You know, that's what it would turn into in the future, I think.
I think on the flip side, if they're able to identify those things and be able to alter the genes, I don't really see how, like I can see how they could be able to alter it in a way that keeps some of the good traits of autism or Asperger's that makes us different academically, rather, and taking away the social issues, social problems that some people might have. Obviously, it's a disorder. It's autism spectrum disorder. So, if we were able to function better as a society, I don't really see anything wrong with that in that sense. Yeah. But if it was to take away autism altogether and everything that comes associated with that, maybe I might have a little bit of a problem. But I think that's a little bit far away from us for the moment.
To be worrying about it. Yeah. Well, we are futurists here.
Yeah.
And I would say that I have one last question for you because we're coming up to the time. You have a bit of beef with Kanye West.
Well, no, I would.
Go on, call him out.
No, I was just saying.
All the way up here. I can't wait to get this mic and tell them about Kanye.
I was just saying before the podcast, like how I can see in a lot of like autistic traits. I don't know if they have autism or if they have Asperger's or not, but I can see how they possibly could be diagnosed. So I was just saying Kanye West as an example because obviously he's very far out, and a lot of people don't really. He finds it hard to connect with some people with a lot of his crazy ideas, and I think there's some notable figures in the Jiu-Jitsu society that display elements of Asperger's or autism. I don't know now, but I think I'd probably say the likes of Michael Musumeci or Musumeci. I think it's yeah, and the Meow brothers as well, just because they're so tunnel vision with jiu-jitsu, and they don't really do anything else. I think one was asked, do you have anything else that you do in your time? You just said no.
That was when there were purple belts in Brazil as well.
So I think and maybe some notable jiu-jitsu figures in the Irish community as well. I don't really want to say, but yeah, I think there's a lot.
They could say it themselves if they ever felt the need to or want to, like 100%. And I think that hopefully maybe there are other people that are listening to this that are now either gonna maybe find out a little bit more about themselves or treat. I don't want to say people like yourself, but treat people with autism and Asperger just with that little bit more compassion. Or like, I know from us personally, I've always had very fascinating conversations with you at competitions or wherever I seen you. So to me, it was just kind of like, I can understand how some people might be like, oh, I'm not talking to that guy because he's different. But I look at it in the way that I'm talking to this guy because we're going to have a conversation about something different, about something mental. And how we talk about it will be entirely different to most conversations I'd have on that day. Like,
it just bringing it back to that point about it being a disorder. Well, like just about a diagnosis in general. It's just labeling a certain amount of symptoms. Like once you understand that it's just labeling a certain amount of symptoms, or grouping those symptoms in together and trying to understand what that person is, that's pretty much all it is. When you're younger, there is ways of like support systems to try to help you socialize that little bit more, and like develop those skills. But really, it is who you are, and it's just. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, everyone is different. So that's really what I have to say about that.
I think that's a very good way to finish. I would say, just to big you up that a little bit more, Jack Dolan. If you're in the Tullamore area, Midlands area, look up SVG Tullamore. Look up the gym. If you're a person who would like to do something different in the morning before going to work, 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday and a Thursday, Jack teaches classes there. If you're a casual jiu-jitsu fan and you're going to see him at competitions on the 28th, on the 29th, on the 28th of September, he'll be in Lisbon. On the 29th of September, he'll be competing at the Irish Open in the Blue Belt Featherweight division. Possibly an all-out war with George Santos' son again.
He's 4-1 against me.
He's your nemesis at this stage, isn't he?
Arch nemesis, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hopefully that'll be a fantastic match. And anything else? What would you like to finish on? I'll allow you to be able to finish on
just
something.
Thank Leg Locker. They're sending me out some free gear in a few weeks, or a couple of weeks, I think. Leg Locker apparel on Instagram as well. So just
I have one of their rash guards.
Yeah.
Ryan McCartney said, I don't know if he didn't like it, but it was too small. He said he gave it to me, and I get slagged for wearing it in the gym. I don't know. We have different opinions on leg locks.
I wore it once on EFC, the show in our town. Yeah. I was really hoping that he wouldn't look at the leg locker written across. I ended up getting a heel hook finish.
Yeah,
and that's actually what got me the chance to get free gear off them. I messaged him ahead. If I get a heel hook finish wearing your gear, can I get like something off you guys?
Care package.
And he said, yeah, sure. So I ended up heel hooking him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, happy enough.
Congratulations. Anyway, I'm a small, so if anything else comes in those sizes, just I'll see you at the next competition. Jack.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was a wee Trump handshake there, a wee double handshake.